Gentlemen, my name is Anza Saqib. I'm the head of corporate affairs at CxO Global Forum. Welcome to another digital roundtable conference on CxO Global TV. CxO Global Forum is a knowledge sharing platform for all C-levels across Pakistan and the globe. Our aim is to contribute to the knowledge economy and learn from the best practices of thought leaders, influencers, and global disruptors. Every week, we've got some very interesting topics, and this week as well for our DRT, we chose a topic of increasing productivity in the workplace. What the pandemic has taught all of us has been that we need to constantly adapt to changing times, and that includes the fact that we have to, regardless of the situation that happens, we have to keep thinking of creative ways to increase productivity of the employees. With COVID-19, a lot of work had to be done from home, and that affected the productivity of most employees initially. However, a lot of companies, especially the IT sector, played their role and made good use of upcoming technologies, newer technologies, and helped bridge the gap between the productivity of employees, their accountability, reporting lines, and overall the corporate governance. So we will be discussing these newer technologies. We'll be discussing fresh perspectives and how we can build a roadmap to increasing the productivity in the workplace. Today as well, like always, we've got three different perspectives for you, three different influencers who've brought a significant amount of influence in their domain, and they're from three diversified backgrounds. Joining us from Pakistan is Mr. Farhan Arif, who's the head of IT, business partner technology, and the operations at Group M. He is a regular with us. Thank you so much, Farhan Arif Saab, for joining us. We've got Hassan Zubairi, who's the product manager of the MENA region at Elite WAD. Again, one of our regulars and someone who has a lot of information, and he's always willing to share. Then we've got someone young and dynamic joining us from Germany, Sanan bin Tahir. He's a web and Unity developer at Holospaces. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking out time and for joining us for another digital roundtable conference. We are going to start with Sanan here today, since he's completely new to our digital roundtable conferences. And Sanan, so what is your take on increasing productivity in the workplace? And was there anything that last year taught you in terms of productivity in the workplace?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I'm still young, so my area of expertise is very focused until now. But I have been working as a Unity developer for the past 2.5 years now, and productivity in the workplace, it's of course it's something that's really essential, right? And what I'm working on at Holospaces right now, it is mainly targeting this. So what I'm going to be talking about is from the perspective of XR technology, which is like an umbrella term for all of the technologies like MR, AR, VR, all of them, right? So using these technologies to increase productivity in the workplace. So first, let's just talk about like the potentials of XR, right? It's being used, and it can be used in a lot of places right now. It can be used for training people. It can be used for smart recruitment, for remote collaboration, for design solutions, and even just as a leisure activity, gamification.
Gamification, of course,
Yeah, exactly. And so much so there's now startups that are even using VR to treat PTSD and using it for meditational purposes, right?
Absolutely. Those are transformative technologies, something that
Yeah, exactly. And what we're focusing on right now is mostly remote collaboration, right? So mixed reality collaboration and communication. We have a mixed reality collaboration and communication solutions, right? And it's the idea of it is that it's supposed to be better than these traditional meetings, right? And talking about the pandemic last year, there was especially in Germany, there was a term that was gaining a lot of traction. It's called Zoom fatigue, and
Zoom
it's
fatigue, right?
yeah, and it's that this, even though video calls seem like an elegant solution to remote work and remote communication, but are they they wear on your psyche in really complicated ways. There's even journals and papers written on it, especially in the last year or so. And the thing is, humans themselves are social animals, right? And they need the feeling of social presence. So, what mixed reality and VR is, it's capable of doing that, right? You can have another person in the same space. There's a concept when you're in virtual reality. You have this concept of having your personal space and reading another person's body language, for example. Um, Things that you can't do in traditional 2D video chats. So it's definitely something that's gaining a lot of traction, and it can benefit a lot of companies too, because you really you can cut down on traveling costs even, and it's really beneficial, especially for remote teams that are getting very common nowadays, right?
Right.
And
Sanan,
yeah.
we'll hear more about this from you as we build up in today's session. But one of the important things that you did mention was that there is a lot of talk about how things have changed and there are new terms that have been coined. And with Mr. Hassan Zuberi being here, he's someone who's had extensive experience in the MENA region as well. Hassan Saab, are you still, yeah, here with us? So, what I wanted to ask you in terms of all these newer technologies that Sanan mentioned, how important it is for businesses to incorporate these newer technologies these days into their line of work, because a lot of business, especially in a polarized market like Pakistan, are less resistant to change. So when we talk about like AI driven solutions, so what has your observation been? Gee, I think there's a bit of
Anzad, Sanan was saying it's
yeah,
lag and
yeah.
yeah.
Sorry,
Can you hear me?
please. Yes, we
Yeah.
can hear you.
What Sanan was saying, this is, I mean, this pandemic has, changed the things a lot, like we've been discussing in the past 3, 4 roundtables. And there's a paradigm shift. These 2D chats have been converted to virtual reality, and more things are being added daily. I mean, in fact, now there is a new Zoom competitor, which is the NVIDIA is about to launch their video platform also. And they're saying they're claiming it to be huge. There are talks of virtual reality or virtual presence, which we learned while I was in Cisco in Pakistan. And I'll take a step back actually, and because I was reading about these things, I will. Why I'm saying taking a step back, that every individual, we are tied to some goals or objectives every day. I mean, even if it's a holiday, then you have something planned. If it's a work day, then you need to plan something different. I mean, even I can't imagine even getting up on a day and you say you have nothing to do. I mean, there are
Yeah.
always
We've
either
seen
the
each other's calendars, so definitely.
yeah, I mean, it's like that. But what I will say, and I will start 2000, between 2006 and 2000, beginning of 8, I was in Pakistan, and we had a very in fact, it was a German trainer we had a training with for 5 days in Evacuate Trust building in Islamabad.
Yeah.
So, and you know what that trainer used to do? He used to take our notebooks and phones and put them in the corner piled up. And one point which he kept stressing during the training in 5 days, that stop doing incomplete work. I mean, that was something, the tagline of our power management workshop, which we all completed. And a couple of points which I actually took from that training, and I was reading about these things on Google and a couple of other platforms, and which were very common, just 3 points, which I found very common. Again, like Wise he said, and there was one point which is quit multitasking. For all of us, I mean, here in the roundtable or whosoever is listening, we tend to do a lot of, every individual, professionally, tend to do a lot of multitasking. So
Multitasking, right.
I mean, multitasking is like okay, it's good. I mean, I'm sorry to I'm using the words. We are not. Some of us might be Isaac Newtons or Einstein's, but I mean, for us humanly, it's not possible to do multitasking like we do in our daily routine. So, and then another point which I found quite useful, and I actually do it not in the pandemic but before, and they mentioned that take advantage of your commute to your workplace. I mean, people who commute, obviously, if you're driving, not usually, but if
Yeah,
you're
I
on
was
the
just
public transport,
I'm
yeah.
someone that drives everywhere.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. If you're not driving, if you're not self-driving or whatever, if you're using public transport, that time also can be utilized, which I do. Not, I mean, but before pandemic, not now, obviously. And then there is another approach which is called that be proactive rather than being reactive.
Hmm.
So, I mean, sometimes it hurts. Environments like the Asian environments, it might backfire sometimes because of our, culture or whatever it is. But yes, it pays off to you. And another point which I was reading about and have been repeatedly said that they're saying forget about perfection. Nobody is
Hmm.
perfect. So, I mean, if you're focusing on something, because if you keep running for perfection, yes, you will achieve something. But in that process, you lose a lot of focus in the fear that whether you will achieve this or not. So you've done something, if you're confident over it, throw it over. Throw it over, not throwing in the sense, but yes, stop running for perfection. Couple of points. I mean, yeah, but this is what is. I mean, in a day, what you can do. Look at yourself, look at your schedule, and then you can summarize on that.
Right, absolutely. Some very pertinent points made, Hassan Saab. And we're going to come to Mr. Farhan Arif, who has a lot of experience with Group M. And we know this Group M is one of the biggest media houses in Pakistan, and a lot of others, their scope of work extends extensively. So, heading IT in an organization like Group M obviously comes with a very different set of experience that you must have experienced over the pandemic. So how is it that we can increase productivity, and how did you see certain best practices of increasing productivity during this time?
Okay. As you have already mentioned, Hassan Saab already mentioned that you have to be a very proactive rather than the reactive. एक्चुअली ये जो चीज़ है ये मैनेजमेंट के बहुत ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम करती है. मैनेजमेंट इज कीप ऑलवेज आस्किंग अस के यू हैव टू बी अ प्रोएक्टिव, बट समटाइम्स ये गैप है जो कि हमें फिल करना है. टेक्नोलॉजी गैप है बेसिकली. whenever you are a technology person, you are just come up with a solution. तो मैनेजमेंट के पास बहुत सारे चैलेंजेस होते हैं, बहुत सारी उनके प्लेट्स में बहुत सारे टास्क ऐसे होते हैं जो कि वो कहते हैं कि नहीं, अभी फिलहाल इसको साइड लाइन करते हैं, इसको एक टास्क को हम प्रायोरिटाइज नहीं कर सकते. और जब चीजें प्रॉब्लम्स क्रिएट होती हैं, देन दे जस्ट कम अप एंड आस्क कि आपने इसको एक्शंस क्यों नहीं लिया. तो हम कहते हैं कि ये तो चीज हम पहले ही प्रोएक्टिवली आपको बता चुके थे. So this is the one of the challenges in Pakistan, that the management is not just focusing on the technology, honestly speaking. The last pandemic, as you have already mentioned, that everyone has their own experiences. Let me just share my experience as well. That when we were in somewhere in February, when we just came to know that now we have to just go for the work from home. तो उस वक्त इस मीडिया एजेंसी के पास सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज होता है, इनकी रिकवरीज होती हैं, इनके बिलिंग प्रोसेसेस होते हैं, उनके सब प्रॉब्लम्स ये होती हैं कि जब तक इनकी वो साइकिल कंप्लीट नहीं होता है, तो दे आर जस्ट it's not just a group, I mean, it's a media agencies and media group and clients as well. तो बहुत सारे लोग इसके साथ एसोसिएटेड होते हैं. तो वहां पर इस वक्त वो जो एक प्रॉब्लम थी वहां क्रिएट हुई थी कि आपके पास ई इनवॉइसेस का कॉन्सेप्ट हम लोगों ने बिल्डअप किया था. दैट इज वन ऑफ द
E-advice.
थिंग. हाँ, ई इनवॉइसेस
Yeah.
का. तो उस
E-invoices,
वक्त
right?
ये बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज था. यू कैन नॉट जस्ट एज बीइंग एज अ मल्टीनेशनल कंपनी, वी कैन जस्ट अफोर्ड इट, वी कैन जस्ट यूज दिस काइंड ऑफ अडोब रीडर्स एंड अदर ई सिग्नेचर्स काइंड ऑफ प्रोडक्ट्स. बट जहाँ जो छोटे चैनल्स हैं, जो छोटी एजेंसीज हैं, वो चीजें यूज अडॉप्ट नहीं कर सकती थी. नाउ दिस दैट वाज द टाइम दैट वी हैव स्टार्ट एजुकेटिंग ऑल दिस अदर देन ग्रुप एंड पीपल्स कि भाई ये चीजें हैं एंड वी हैव टू जस्ट अडॉप्ट दिस थिंग जस्ट टू प्रोसेस एंड इंक्रीज द प्रोडक्टिविटी. That's the way that we have start some of the initiatives कि हमने कुछ initiatives लिए इन्वेस्टिंग को स्पीड अप करने के लिए, प्रोडक्टिविटीज को इंक्रीज करने के लिए. then how we can just increase the invoices and the payment processes. So again,
Right.
it's depend कि how you can just take up and come up with the solutions. अच्छा, problems ये होती है कि हमारे पास बहुत सारे problems के solutions तो होते हैं, but we are just fail to implement these things. ये भी एक बहुत बड़ा challenge है.
Implementation के लिए आता है. Okay.
हम्म,
Right.
ये इस चीज़ को भी बहुत ज़्यादा एड्रेस करने की ज़रूरत है कि हम किस तरह उस चीज़ को इम्प्लीमेंट करें. दैट वी हैव टू जस्ट इंक्रीज दिस थिंग, लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल if you have to just manage your management first, then you have to just implement the solutions. This is one of the challenge we were just facing during this last year. तो ये था हमारे साथ एक प्रॉब्लम जो हमने फेस किया. नाउ
Thank
व्हाट
you
वी
so
कैन
much
डू,
for sharing these with us. Thank you so much for sharing these with us. We'll hear some more about them. But a couple of interesting things that Sanan had mentioned, and Sanan, obviously, now that we talk about increasing productivity, and just like Farhan Saab did mention about, like for instance, e-invoicing, or we spoke about the concept of quick multitasking or being proactive, not reactive. Let's talk about some of the technologies that have helped increase our productivity. So, what are the three technologies that you feel globally as well have increased productivity in the workplace, be it cloudification? What are the three areas?
So again, I would mention that using XR to integrate that into the company. That has in Germany, it's become very commonplace now.
Could you, just
Because
for the benefit of our audience, explain a little briefly about what XR is?
so XR is like an umbrella term for virtual. We have virtual reality, which is like this whole new environment that's detached from your real environment. Then there's augmented reality, which I would say is something like you use on your phone with Snapchat filters. There's an avatar standing on the table. Then there's mixed reality, which is a mixture of your real world and the virtual world. So devices like the HoloLens, which you have like a table that's virtually standing on the floor that you're actually standing on, right? So holograms and such. So XR is just an umbrella term for all of these technologies and a mixture of all of these technologies. So again, integrating them into your daily routine. How our company currently works is we have a daily stand-up meeting, right? We have people working in different parts of Germany, and for 2 months I was even working from Pakistan, and
Okay. Wow.
yeah, and I was and it's great because I wouldn't ever be able to do that in normal times, right? Because every single day in the morning we have a 15-minute daily stand-up meeting in virtual reality, and it's
Oh, okay.
just
Yeah.
and it's honestly so much different than what you would expect. Like there's things that you wouldn't ever be able to experience in 2D. Like somebody comes too close to you, it's involuntary reaction for you to step back in virtual reality, because like I said, you have this concept of personal space, right? And it's everything feels real, right? And then there's you can do so much more. You can move stuff around, you can bring in models, you can mark stuff, you can have ideas, and then they're persisted. You can come back tomorrow to them, go over them again. And it's just that
Wow.
this integration of this new technology, it unlocks so many more things, right? And you our main focus and the main challenge right now is right now XR is considered a luxury, more so in Pakistan. I think at the moment. Here, the landscape is slowly shifting, but it's still considered a luxury, right? You have to buy a device of even the new Oculus Quest is even though it's costs less, it's like $300.
Yeah.
So it's still considered a luxury, right? So people want to be able to still be able to join the same meeting with their mobile phones and have some sort of an interaction with the people in VR, right? And that's what we're targeting right now, and that's what our main focus is right now. So you can just go on your browser. A person who is on the browser can also interact with the same person who is in VR, and then another person is using the HoloLens, which is
Yeah.
mixed reality, right? And so there's a lot of stuff, and sometimes it's just like I said, it's a leisure activity too, right? Sometimes me and my coworkers, we just find ourselves just playing around in the workspace. We're just throwing stuff around. We're just playing catch, even with a virtual ball. And and I think all of that
Does
really
that contribute to your motivation and your productivity, Sanam?
I definitely think so. Like if I know that I'm gonna be when I get up and I'm actually excited for the working day, right? And I'm excited about like talking to my coworkers, telling them what I did yesterday, right? And it's done in this fun way, right? It's just more beneficial for me, and I believe that it's definitely increasing my productivity, because if I like doing the work that I do, I'm just going to do it so much better, because it's not work at that point, right? It's just something that you love to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Sanan, thank you so much for sharing this great insight with us about how productivity can be increased in the workplace through XR technologies, and that is definitely a topic I would like to discuss with you separately on one of our later shows. But coming back to being proactive rather than reactive, and just focusing a little about forgetting perfection. Hassan Saab, it's easy to talk about these things, but when we actually, look at the higher management or the higher echelons of companies, obviously, sales and making money is also a very big, reality. That's there. We're all in it for productivity. How can this bridge be this gap be bridged, where we need to, on one hand, focus on keeping our people motivated and automating processes, and then also increasing sales and revenue.
See, in my kind of environment, in a personal experience, for me, the proactive approach, alhamdulillah, till now has worked. I mean, yes, I will agree. I mean, we all are humans. It like Arif Bhai was mentioning, it sometimes backfires. I mean, the management sometimes doesn't. But like for me, for my personal agenda, it won't be a selfish kind of a statement, but yes, I actually raised the hand and then said that, sir, I mean, ABC or 1, 2, 3 has been delivered. I mean, then there is time tracking, and then there are timelines also. It sometimes, again, I won't use the word backfires, but it affects sometimes. But again, then if you have a personal level of satisfaction, if you have personal goals, and yes, the proactive approach, because our job or my job is very much linked towards sales and revenues and targets and all things like that. So sometimes, and yes, this works. I will actually gather a bit of information last year, because we work into different countries and different regions. The approach of proactive approach helps me a lot, because I have to do tons of follow-ups, and I know what the reaction will be from there. It pisses off people. I mean, yes, it affects, but then it's when it backfires. If it comes back to me, my answer is simple: that I'm just completing a process, and it's a job I have been assigned to. My personal take on this is that, because I'm doing this because it's part of my job and my objective. I don't have a personal agenda for this. And because again, I mentioned it's human behavior. If you are proactive, some people might think you're over efficient also. But then if there is a timeline to a personal task or to a personal objective to be achieved, into a timeline, into a date, then you have to go proactive, and it helps. And then, like you say, the object achieved, I'm gathering up the information, like Sanan said. Just during the last week, we had to complete a presentation for a vendor, which required gathering information from finance also, from sales also, and a lot of thought process had to go around. I don't know the number of WebExes we did, and we actually were altering on one window. I had Google Docs open. I'm just telling what I'm just seconding up.
I do as well on the other side. Yeah.
I mean, on the other hand, there was a WebEx open where I was actually picking the information and putting it on there. So these tools are helping. Again, like we've been discussing this transformation. You call it transformation, you call it digitization, or you call it disruption. All, if you don't embed in one and you don't follow them up and you don't gel yourself into it, then you'll be, I mean, like you say, you'll be flagged or you'll be highlighted because you can't keep up with the pace. So, I
Absolutely.
mean, you have to be on the pace, you have to gel in, and plus you have to prove that you are in that pace and you are in that space. Like again, if I'm mentioning repeatedly Sanan's thing that lucky him and good to be with him, and that he's sharing all those experiences.
Yes.
Tomorrow, you can imagine if these things come to Pakistan, what will happen? I mean,
Absolutely. I was just going to say that, with a platform like CxO Global Forum, our vision is to ensure that such technologies are available and such knowledge is available throughout the world, and especially starting from Pakistan. Speaking of Pakistan, since Farhan Arif Saab has been working here, sir, when we talk about productivity, there also comes obviously that challenge of accountability and monitoring people. I know a lot of people who previously were used to slack at work, and obviously we have a culture of the chai culture, ji hum chai pee le, ye karne. But after the pandemic, and especially since things got on cloud and we've got certain technologies where you have to log in hours and work processes have become more and more automated, we saw that we really got a lot of accountability from people. Did you experience this, and how important do you think it is, and what technologies can we use to monitor and make people accountable?
Okay. Let me just give you one more example. What we did in the last couple of, in fact, last year, in fact, I started in 2019, 20, and 21 extensively start using it. So basically, what we realized, the people is not just willing to just doing work again and again. Basically, they are not robotics. Honestly speaking, we can say we started in 2020 in somewhere in April, a mingle session. Mingle session
Yeah.
is just to just collaborate some of different department peoples on one platform. We start using a Microsoft Teams, and we start sharing the videos. It is mandatory to share the videos, and they start sharing some of their experience. It's a monthly and bi-monthly on a basis.
Mm-hmm.
बेसिकली द पर्पस ऑफ दिस के लोग अपने एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे आएं और अपनी दिल की बातें करें डिफरेंट लोगों के साथ. सो दिस इज वन ऑफ द थिंग दैट वी स्टार्टेड के नाउ it also help them to just share the knowledge and share the experiences, and also just हम उनको अपनी routine work से उनको थोड़ा सा दूर कर दें. Then they start working, and it works, honestly speaking. Then after 3 months, they people start working, and जो जिनके साथ उनके जो प्रॉब्लम से डिफरेंट ए का बी के साथ कुछ एक इश्यूज था, या उनके साथ वो बातें नहीं करते थे, देन वी स्टार्ट जो कि फॉर ये है प्लेटफॉर्म, और उसके अंदर रैंडमली हम लोगों ने इस चीज़ को पिकअप किया. इट वाज आईटी एंड बिजनेस इनिशिएटिव्स कि आईटी ने इस चीज़ को एस्टैब्लिश किया कि किस तरह हम इस चीज़ को करेंगे, बिजनेस का आइडिया को स्टैंडर्ड.
Absolutely.
Now, this is help us to increase the productivity, honestly speaking. कि वो लोगों को जो रूटीन वर्क था, उनको ये होता था कि नेक्स्ट मंथ हम जब जाएंगे तो हम ये सारी बातें, इश्यूज को हम उस प्लेटफॉर्म के ऊपर डिस्कस करेंगे और इस चीज को रिजॉल्व करने की कोशिश करेंगे. दिस इज वन थिंग दैट वी हैव जस्ट स्टार्टेड इन 2020. सेकंड थिंग,
Right.
टेक्नोलॉजीज को हम किस तरह अडॉप्ट करते हैं एंड उसकी अकाउंटेबिलिटी कैसी होती है. जैसे एज आई ऑलरेडी मेंशन देखिए, हमने डिफरेंट, ये बड़ा लर्निंग एक्सपीरियंस था हम सबके लिए. कोविड पीरियड, उसके अंदर हम लोगों ने बड़ी डिफरेंट टेक्नोलॉजीज को एक्सपीरियंसेस किए हैं, जिस तरह गूगल टॉक्स हो गए हैं, या क्लाउड बेस्ड टेक्नोलॉजीज हो गई हैं, जो हमने बहुत ज़्यादा कभी फोकस नहीं किया हुआ था उसके ऊपर. हम लोगों ने, हमारे पास पेपरलेस प्रिंटिंग की इनिशिएटिव्स हुए कि पेपरलेस प्रिंटिंग ऑप्शन हो, कि हम वर्क फ्लो सिस्टम्स को इम्प्लीमेंट कर दें, रादर देन कि हमारे पास वो पेपर्स मूव हो रहे होते हैं वन टेबल टू अनदर टेबल. उसके ऊपर हमने फोकस किया, वो चीज़ इंप्लीमेंट की. सेकंड, हमारे पास जो कुछ बहुत सारी जगहों पे सिग्नेटरीज के इश्यूज होते थे, हमने सिग्नेटरीज के लिए हम लोगों ने एडोब रीडर्स और उसके
Yes,
सिग्नेटरी ऊपर किया. तो इसके अंदर इसने इट हेल्प्स अ लॉट कि बिजनेस के अंदर जो चैलेंजेस थे, मीडिया प्लानिंग टिल बिलिंग एंड बाइंग, एंड वो कंप्लीटली उसका फाइनेंशियल जो प्रोसेस होता है, उस चीज़ को काफ़ी ज़्यादा रिवैम्प किया, ऑटोमेट किया. और उस इसकी एक बड़ी एग्जांपल ये थी कि हमने लास्ट ईयर ओवरऑल इंडस्ट्री का एक डिप आया था. मीडिया इंडस्ट्री की मैं बात करूँ तो 7% का डिप था. देन अगर अब हम लोगों ने जो इनिशिएटिव्स लिए थे थ्रू आउट द ईयर, उससे हमने अपनी प्रोडक्टिविटी इंक्रीज की अप टू 5%. तो ओवरऑल अगर ये डिप था, लेकिन
wow.
हमारे पास ये चैलेंज था कि हमने 5% इंक्रीज कर दिया था. लास्ट ईयर जो सारी इंडस्ट्रीज का एक बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज, वो प्रॉब्लम्स रही हैं. लेकिन इसके अंदर ये था
अच्छा
कि
फरहान,
मैनेजमेंट को
sorry. Sorry to interrupt you, but one of the things that's very important जो मुझे आपकी बातों से भी realize हुआ है वो ये कि it's very important for departments to be communicating and working in a synergy, because like you said that the Department of Business had how IT supported this digital transformation, that really helped out, and it's something that all companies need to focus on. And you, mashallah, are one of the most dynamic heads of IT that I've seen, because you are someone that also knows about influencer marketing and everything. So hats off to you. And I believe this is an inspiring case study for most departmental heads of IT, also to learn from the fact that it's very important to have interdepartmental communication as well. Coming back to you, Sanan, one of the other technologies that you mentioned was obviously remote collaborations, right? And being in Germany and also, having grown up in Pakistan, how important do you think these remote collaborations are for increasing productivity? And could you help us or guide us better with an example, personal one, that you've experienced, how a case study or maybe a success story?
Yeah, of course. So, like I said, the main thing that I experienced was when I was in Pakistan for 2 months during, I think, from around somewhere around October till January, and that's one of the main points where I really got to experience this technology, right? But there's I do want to elaborate more on what Farhan Bhai said too, because I think communication is also really important, right? So talking about like this technology and communication, interdepartmental communications. The company I work in is a startup, so we have just 5 developers, so it doesn't apply as much over here. But I have a friend who works at a medium-sized company where I think it has around 35 employees. So they have a really unique way of tackling things similar to what Farhan Bhai said. So they have like a simple application that puts all of those 30 employees into a pool and matches up any 2 random people together, right? And
Okay, wow.
what they're supposed to do is every week, those 2 people are supposed to have 2 lunch meetings together, right? And just even though they're from completely different departments, they're just gonna be talking to each other. So it's just opening up channels. It's opening communication. You're getting to talk to people who are working in the same company, and then it's just so much easier because then you have an understanding because of those meetings, and then you can translate that similar thing into the workspace when you have interdepartmental communication going on, and the other person. Then it's so much easier, and I think the communication inside the company, it's so important, I think, and it's just using
Something
these
that, yeah,
resources.
that does help in increasing productivity.
Yeah.
A lot of younger viewers watch us as well, and the reason I was laughing was that I got a comment. I think this is someone very young or maybe naive, and it's only the naive questions that do get us very far in life. And this little kid, he's asked on a personal level, said, "How can I increase productivity if I'm just one person working in the company?" And there's no
Well,
other.
then it's the same thing that I talk about. Like पहले आपने बात की थी कि I feel like कि पाकिस्तान में कि mentality वही जो है कि जी चाय पी लें भी ये कर लें भी वो कर लें, right? तो because I did experience, बहुत कम experience है मेरा पाकिस्तान में, लेकिन I did an internship there for 3 months. तो थोड़ा सा वहाँ का भी मुझे अंदाजा हुआ कि what I mainly found in Pakistan, there's like 2 categories of people, and they're both on the extremes. And even my friends working in Pakistan, I put them in one category or the other. So it's either one guy who's going to be like कि भाई मैंने काम ही करना है और मैंने और कुछ नहीं करना, और वो 12-16 घंटे लगाएगा दिन में, और वो जो है ना उसने बस काम करना है और सोना है, and that is it. और दूसरी तरफ है एक और बंदा who's like I am just it's just a job for me. So he's just like अच्छा हाँ I have to do it, it's a 9 to 5. and I
Right.
have to get over it. And where I think the chai mentality
The
comes.
chai mentality. That's a nice term that you've coined there, Sanam.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I
Speaking
think
of productivity,
it's challenges. Answering the guy who talked about it, I think it's more just mental attitude. And if
yeah,
you're genuinely working on something that you enjoy and something that you want to work on, right? And it's just, I think, a mental challenge at that point. If you're
absolutely.
actually want to do that, if you actually like doing it, you're definitely going to be more productive than if it's just a chore to you.
A lot of people are commenting saying, "Aap chai ko bura na kahin, Sanam." It's what keeps
I
us
love
going.
chai. I love chai.
Right. So definitely, Acha, coming back onto something serious, I mean, it's something that Sanan pointed out. Hassan sir, there's a difference between hard work and smart work, because just like Sanan pointed out, yahan pe I've seen a lot of, and especially within the IT sector, we've seen some people that work for 15, 16 hours a day, and yet they're not bringing in the same results that some of the younger lot who's probably working 6 hours a day, 4 hours a day is bringing in. So how do we ensure and how do we pinpoint this difference between working smart and working hard? Where does the balance come in?
It's actually, I was very much naive. Nobody's naive. Everybody has to start somewhere. And if he's even is the only person, I will give you an example. A couple of years back, again, not couple, a lot of years back, when IBM started to sell its software, which are now a major player in the market also, IBM used to use a term smart. I mean, they said our softwares are smart, and how they smart, and how did they elaborate the word smart? They said it's self-manage and resource tune. So
Yeah.
this goes, I mean, the word smart, SMART. So self-manage and
Manage
resource tune.
resource.
No, self-manage and resource tune. So
Okay.
means you can understand this concept can go for humans also. I mean, again, seconding Sanan and Farhan also about the technologies and the behavior. I mean, it's all about self-assessment. What are you delivering back? And if you think, and again, if I'm dragging Sanan again and again in the discussion, there should be a work-life balance. I mean, too much of the people who are spending too much of time also, then they're not productive. For us also, there is a stop. There is regular breaks. I mean, in Europe, in the European culture, that is, you've seen the offices of Google or Microsoft. They develop a kind of a culture. Even here in Middle East, in Dubai, a lot of offices are like that, which don't look so much like the conventional office spaces and everything. Even my office here in Dubai is not that kind of typical kind of office or ties or suits and everything. We do use that attire. So there is always a work-life balance. I mean, and then it's you to decide, even if you're, I mean, if not bad mouthing chai, but then you know when you need to take a break. And likewise, I said, if you're multitasking, if you're mixing up a lot of things, you don't complete one task and switch to another, or you spend a lot of time, unproductive time. There's productive time and then non-productive time. So it's all about self-assessment. If you know, and if you plan it well, then your breaks and your non-productive time and productive time, you can separate. And overworking means like the 12 hours or 16 hours or 18 hours, then you don't achieve anything, because ultimately we are humans. We will crash. If not one day, second, third day, you will crash. I mean, it has happened. Stress has taken. I still have a video. I'll share it with everybody. A couple of,
You can do
again,
so
two
in
CEOs.
the comments box. I'll share it with
I will share it. The BMW CEO, he came out to introduce the, I think this was the I series, I mean the 5 series or 7 series BMW. 30 seconds of his presentation, he fainted. He had a concussion, really, and that was stress actually. During the present, he started to talk and he fell. I mean, he just fainted. Then he got up and then he had to change. It's on YouTube. So I mean, just saying these are the examples. So, I mean, the work-life, these days, again, with COVID and everything and so much of technology, the work-life balance is getting more and more important to be productive. Working so much,
Absolutely.
being a workaholic doesn't mean that you're productive. Productivity is something else defined in a different way.
Absolutely. And this is something I would like to give a shout out to Mr. Kamal Masroor, country director, who's also a mentor for a lot of us. And he always stresses on the fact that do not work hard, you need to work smart, because you need to actually know where to channelize your energies. So, focus and then do your research. So you should know where you're supposed to put in the hard work, or your work in particular. Because all human beings have the same 24 hours in a day. It's how we utilize them. Farhan Arif sir, another important theme that was brought in, especially during the beginning of the session, was Zoom fatigue. So we know that a lot of work from home, people working in the tech industry, we all have a lot of screen time. And how is this something that can obviously, because obviously this leads to a lot of exhaustion as well, as opposed to generally, because we're obviously staring at a screen for a major part of our day. How can we still increase productivity but also lessen our screen time a little? Is it a possibility?
Okay, let me just give you the answer of the guy. जो 1% एटीट्यूड वो है, तो उसके लिए तो सबसे पहले तो मैं इस चीज़ को कहूँगा कि फर्स्ट टू डू एटीट्यूड होना बहुत ज़रूरी है कि आई कैन डू इट. दिस इज वन ऑफ द थिंग दैट वी हैव टू जस्ट रियलाइज ऑन थिंग. और सेकंड थिंग दैट यू हैव टू हैव सेल्फ मोटिवेटेड. मतलब अब वेट ना करें मेरा बॉस आएगा मुझे अप्रिशिएट करेगा, देन अब अपने आप को सेल्फ मोटिवेट करते हैं. देन दिस इज वन थिंग दैट यू हैव टू जस्ट इंक्रीज योर प्रोडक्टिविटी. Honestly speaking, if we are just backing ourselves कि yes मैं कर सकता हूँ, then I can just do it, और मैं इस चीज़ को शेयर कर सकता हूँ, then I can just be a part of this team and contribute technology thing. So this is one thing that we have to be adopt. And honestly speaking, we are just as असल सबसे तो हम बहुत रिएक्टिव हैं. ऑनेस्टली स्पीकिंग हम प्रोएक्टिव नहीं है, तो यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा हमें अपने आप को एटीट्यूड को चेंज करने की जरूरत है. सेकंड थिंग कि हम प्रोडक्टिविटी को किस तरह इंक्रीज कर सकते हैं. प्रॉब्लम ये होती है कि जब यूजर्स जिस तरह हम बताते हैं बहुत सारी जगहों के ऊपर होता है कि हमारे पास जो जो वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस है वो चीज़ें बिल्कुल मैनेज नहीं होती. प्रॉब्लम ये होती है कि हम 9 to 5 कहते हैं, स्टार्ट करते हैं 10 o'clock पे, देन एंड अप 9-9:30, और उसके इन बिटवीन बहुत सारे नॉन प्रोडक्टिव वर्क भी कर रहे होते हैं. तो प्रोडक्टिविटी के जो जो असल जो प्रॉब्लम्स हैं हम उसको फेस नहीं करते, हम बहुत सारी अदर इश्यूज को एड्रेस कर लेते हैं, हम मेन इश्यूज के ऊपर नहीं जाते. दिस इज वन थिंग दैट वी हैव टू जस्ट रियलाइज कि हमें प्रायोरिटाइज करना बहुत जरूरी है. हमें अपने आप को थोड़ा सा एक स्टेप बैक, यू कैन जस्ट टेक अ स्टेप बैक एंड रियलाइज कि भाई हमें करना क्या है, हम करने क्या, आज का डे स्टार्ट कैसे करना है. हमारे पास बहुत सारी चीजें आती हैं, बहुत सारी मिक्स प्लेट होती हैं, उसके अंदर हमें अपने आप को हमें उसके अंदर से प्रायोरिटीज करके सेट करके उसके अंदर से चीजों को रिजॉल्व करना होता है वन बाय वन. सेकंड चीज कि हम जब लोगों से एक्सपेक्टेशंस करते हैं कि बहुत सारी चीजें, ये चीजें हुई नहीं है, ये तुम्हारी वजह से नहीं हुई है, ये फ्रस्ट्रेशन हम ऑटोमेटिकली बेसिकली हम ट्रांसफर कर रहे होते हैं अपनी फ्रस्ट्रेशन दूसरों के ऊपर. तो दिस इज वन वन मोर थिंग दैट कि हम जो प्रोडक्टिविटी के अंदर जो हिंड्रेंस है ना वो ये भी है कि हम बहुत सारे लोगों की फ्रस्ट्रेशन या तो ले रहे होते हैं या अपनी अपनी फ्रस्ट्रेशन लोगों को दे रहे होते हैं. तो यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा इस चीज को मैनेज करने की जरूरत है कि प्लीज अपने आप को कंपोज करें हम. देन उसके पास हम जो जो भी टास्क है हम उस चीज़ को किस तरह अचीव कर सकते हैं एज अ टीम, एज अ इंडिविजुअल, हम इस चीज़ को खुद एनालाइज करके ही काम करें. तो प्रोडक्टिविटी इज नॉट जस्ट कि भाई हमने जो है वो टेक्नोलॉजीज को अडॉप्ट कर लिया या हमारे मैनेजमेंट के टास्क को हमने कर दिया. यहाँ पर मैं एक और भी चीज़ को मैं करूँगा कि ड्यूरिंग सॉरी लेकिन ये भी चीज़ मेंशन करना बहुत जरूरी है कि लास्ट ईयर हम लोगों ने ये चीज़ बहुत रियलाइज की थी. बहुत सारे जो teammates होते हैं, they are just willing to contribute something that can help a business. Again, IT is an integral part of the business. ये हम इस चीज़ को realize करना बहुत ज़रूरी है. Then what they can do, they can just start thinking कि हम ये वो सारी चीज़ें हैं जो हम कर सकते हैं. हमारे साथ प्रॉब्लम ये होती थी कि हम उन लोगों को चांस ही नहीं देते थे कि आओ अपने इश्यूज को एड्रेस करो डिफरेंट फोरम्स के ऊपर. जो मिंगल सेशन था उसके अंदर हमने वो ये सब बहुत सारी चीजें एक्टिविटीज हमने स्टार्ट की. हमने उनको कहा कि ये तुम्हारी जो रूटीन बिजनेस है, तुम्हारे जो रूटीन वर्क है, डे टू डे बेसिस के वर्क है, देन हाउ वी कैन जस्ट हेल्प यू टू जस्ट ऑटोमेट दिस थिंग, एंड ऑल्सो वी हाउ वी कैन जस्ट रिड्यूस योर टाइम, कि तुम्हारी एफर्ट्स एंड टाइम को हम किस तरह रिड्यूस कर सकते हैं. दिस इज वन थिंग दैट वी हैव टू बी, ये थ्रू आउट द ईयर, थ्रू आउट द आपको अपने वर्क के अंदर हमें इन चीज़ों के ऊपर हमें रिपीटेडली इसके ऊपर फोकस करना पड़ता है, करना चाहिए. देन वी कैन जस्ट ईजिली हेल्प देम. और बिजनेस की प्रोडक्टिविटी इसी में है कि जब आप अपने किसी भी यूजर्स की किसी भी प्रोसेस को रिवैम्प करते हैं तो उसके अंदर ऑटोमेटिकली आप अपनी बिजनेस प्रोसेसेस को अलाइन करेंगे तो बिजनेस की प्रोडक्टिविटी इंक्रीज होगी. This is what I think.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Farhan Arisab. We're running short on time, so I'm going to request you all to please share, your completing comments or ending comments, how you found today's session, and your take on just summing up the fact on how we can use newer technologies to increase productivity. Starting with you, Hassan Saab.
No, the same thing I keep repeating, and whatever everybody's been sharing, it's more about self-assessment. And I mean, you have everybody and every individual itself need to just look at his own self and how you can be productive. Stop looking at other people. I mean, the focus should be on yourself, your own self, and you can realize that how you can produce more in less time, organizing and plus completing more tasks rather running after incomplete tasks. So you keep opening web pages, you keep opening documents, you keep opening presentations, and you keep jumping on tasks. So complete one. I mean, you might need to take a break and then get after the other. Or if you're taking a break, then you need to know that when will you complete it. Sometimes you need to work long hours, but yes, that's what the reality is. That I mean, this digitization and every bit of use of these tools and actually has made people more accessible. What we were not ready for. Maybe just before these zones and these StreamYards and whatever tools we are using, we were not that accessible. But now there is nowhere to run. You're more accessible and you're more reachable. If you're not on phone, you're on WhatsApp. If you're not WhatsApp, you might be somewhere else on the internet connected.
Yeah,
You can't
absolutely.
have a reason that you're not connected. That's only the take is that it's just about more of self-assessment and self-realization and what you need to deliver yourself as an individual, as a professional. And then you will, I mean, if somebody is, if everybody thinks and takes a little bit of time about himself, being more productive and more on the giving back rather taking back or rather on the receiving end, giving end. I mean, the reactive thing Farhan Bhai mentioned, or even Sanan has been saying that. So we should be more proactive. You will be only proactive when you think that you have to give it back or you have to produce, not that you will only react when it will come to you or you will deliver when you're asked for it to. So I mean, it's and don't think it'll be over if efficiency. You're building something own for your own self. You have a personal level of satisfaction also if you're delivering something more than that has been asked to within the timings or objectives. That's what my take is.
Great. Farhan Saab, summing up your thoughts.
Okay, again, it's all just about the communication. So honestly, ये जो there's a difference between department to department. एक firewall create होती है. Then we are not just talking about each other. कि मेरा काम ये है और मेरे बाद उसका काम क्या है मुझे नहीं मालूम. This is the kind of the attitude that we have to just change it. Honestly speaking, that we have to just gel up, not just only for the chai. It's a dinner and party,
Yeah.
different set of parties. Honestly, you have to have some kind of कि आप जब business environment से बाहर निकलते हो तो definitely you just think beyond the business कि वो जो अपने routine work होता है ना उससे हट के बहुत सारी चीजें हो सकती हैं तो वो बहुत ज्यादा productive work होता है I think कि जो हम office के अंदर कर रहे होते हैं इससे काफी ज्यादा effective होता है ये चीज. Second thing, बहुत सारी technologies हैं that we are just as IT we have just implemented and बहुत सारी चीजें हैं we are just try to implement this thing. But we have to just think about it कि whenever we are just adopting any technology that we have to just we believe that this technology help us in the business. Otherwise technologies बहुत सारी हैं we are not just start using it कि बहुत सारे problems हैं कि नहीं ये तो IT की initiatives हैं हम नहीं करेंगे या ये इस business ने कहा था ये वो ही करेगा. So we have to just think like as a team we for the sake of the business interest we have to just adopt those technologies which helps end to end business. This is only the thing that we can just increase the productivity. It's my take.
Absolutely. Brilliant words. To sum up the conversation, I'm going to ask Sanan bin Tahir to stay. Yes, Sanan. Final thoughts?
Yeah, so my starting remarks were about XR. My closing remarks are also going to be about XR. It's yeah, just that I think that, like I said earlier, it's considered people consider VR, AR, MR a luxury. It's definitely not that anymore. Within 5 to 10 years, it's going to become a necessity in a lot of businesses. And I think the first steps are just I encourage everybody to just learn more about these technologies, just see what's out there, right? There's a lot of potential out there, and I guess that's what we're doing here too, right? Just spreading information. And I think on 2nd March, a few days ago, the Microsoft Ignite event took place. It's like this huge
Yes,
event that
absolutely.
takes place every year. And even Microsoft announced their new mixed reality collaboration platform, which is the Microsoft Mesh, which is very similar to something that we're trying to do, right? So it's definitely something to look into. It's exciting. The demo and the Ignite event itself, it was just mind-blowing, honestly. And yeah, as for the rest of the stuff, communication, I think it's very common in Europe to have like flexible working hours. I don't know how that would work in Pakistan. Maybe other industry expert would know better, but I think that's something that could be tried out, definitely. And communication and just having the right mentality and integrating these and having the willingness and having your mind open to these new technologies, I think it's really important to increase productivity for every company, even startups to all the way to the large corporations.
Really. Thank you so much, Anand. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. This has been one of the best DRTs that we've done because we've experienced a lot of different, viewpoints, and we've definitely spoken about some very interesting things that are going to be shaping up the future. In some countries, the future is already there. It's here and now. For us in Pakistan, we're looking forward to it, and we at CxO Global Forum are going to ensure that we help in building that kind of future. Thank you so much for your time, ladies and gentlemen. We will be joining you next time with another digital roundtable conference. If you have any suggestions or topics that you would like for us to discuss, do write to us. Thank you, and we hope you have a great day.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.